Hello and welcome to Who Dropped the Toast podcast episode double question mark Redux. I'm here today with
Tom, this guy who dropped the toast.
and
Max, guy who didn't drop the toast.
and I'm Luke. I never made toast. So today we are going to be talking about movies that we like, the superhero movies that we like that have a somewhat sordid view in the public. Some people love them, some people hate them, some people are indifferent. So we'll place the movies out there and then battle like gladiators verbally for your entertainment. So, all right, go ahead, Max. Your first movie.
All right, my first movie is Iron Man 3, which, granted, is better than the sequel. However, it showed a nice three-dimensional side to Tony Stark's character, and it treated post-traumatic stress disorder very well. That is a very hard thing to say. It almost gave me night terrors when I tried to say it. When he's having his panic attacks and all that, he's thinks he's been poisoned and all that fun stuff. So it's not too bad. The Mandarin stuff was kind of, but other than that, can't really complain. Good action movie. And yeah, that's my bit on it.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, like I've said before, I think I hated it because of the trailer. The entire movie was sold as a Mandarin movie. It was sold as a Mandarin movie. The Extremist was supposed to be a part of it, but at its core, everybody that looked at it thought it was going to be a Mandarin movie. And it turned out to be an Extremist movie in which the Mandarin did not appear.
Yeah. For me, honestly, I enjoyed it when I was sitting there watching it. I was just, happy, eating my popcorn, watching Tony Stark be Tony Stark and Mouthy, and
Tony Stark.
the Iron Man suit fight was, their crown jewel, and it was pretty cool. There was a lot going on. I'm glad I didn't see it in 3D, because that would have been like, what is happening? But like I had said before when we talked about the Wolverine, when I first went and saw the Wolverine, I was like, okay, that was pretty good. And then like the next day, it hit. I was like, wow, that was really good. I really enjoyed that. I kind of somewhat had the opposite with Iron Man 3. When I went and saw it, I was like, oh, this is great. This is awesome. I was just nostalgic because I'd been waiting for anything after the Avengers. They could have fed me anything then, being a Marvel zombie, and I was like, oh, it was so good. But then after a couple days, I was like, it was okay. Like I really didn't like their treatment of the Mandarin. I really didn't like, just a couple other things like explaining the gap between Avengers and Iron Man 3, but they kind of did with their little post thing, and I enjoyed it more after watching their short All Hail the King. I actually ended up going back and watching the movie again and enjoying the movie a little more, like taking out the thing with the Mandarin, knowing that, spoiler alert, that he's not the real Mandarin and there really is a Mandarin out there is what the short was about. And going back and watching it again and kind of having that, I was like, oh, okay. It was an Extremist movie. And if I think of it just as an Extremist movie with that being like a show for the Extremist movie, I was like, I enjoyed it more. Still not my favorite. It's really, I don't know. It's probably somewhere in the middle with the Marvel movies for me, but it was what it was. So
Yeah, see, the whole Marvel short one-off thing, I thought that I mean, okay, yeah, it was an apology. It was them admitting that they made a mistake, and yeah, the Mandarin exists, so you should be happy. But I didn't it didn't come across that way for me because what it told me was that Marvel doesn't know what they're doing, and that's frightening when you stop and think about all of the stuff that they're supposedly working on.
See, with me, it actually, I don't know, because everything they've done so far gives me faith in what they're doing. I have read, like, a lot of them are original stories, but I've read, all the origin stories. I've read, the original Avengers getting together story from Avengers #1. Like, and I can see that, especially when Joss Whedon did Avengers, he stuck to, I got that feeling that I did, like, knowing the characters from the Avengers comic. But, see, I just don't see them. It doesn't worry me at all because after that, Thor 2 came out, and, Thor's never going to be the big, money bringer, the big, tear jerker type of thing. It's, walk around, smash ogres with hammers, and jokes from Natalie Portman's sidekick. And, a little bit of Loki snickering here and there. That's what I expected. That's what I got. It was good. And then Captain America 2, that was, I'm getting off subject, but everything they've done after that, there really hasn't been a big stumble, in my opinion. So I really don't, looking back, I don't see that as a stumble at all. I actually see that as, and who knows, what if they did have that recorded?
Well, you see, it's like
at the same time that they filmed Iron Man 3.
Iron Man 3, I mean, to me was just such a huge misstep that it put me off of the Marvel movies. Like, I didn't see Thor 2 in theaters. It was the first Marvel movie, of the Marvel Cinematic Universe that I didn't see in theaters. I didn't go see in theaters. The same thing happened this year with The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I didn't see that in theaters because The Amazing Spider-Man put me off. But
Thor 2, though.
Thor 2 was great. I liked Thor 2 a lot. I didn't see it till it came out on Blu-ray, but I ended up going and seeing Captain America 2 the day after it opened. Because Thor 2 was a great palate cleanser to the crap, in my opinion, that was Iron Man 3.
Okay.
Yeah, understandable.
All right. So, Tom, you're up. Your movie, which I actually think there's not going to be too much argument against this one with us, but we'll let other people chime in.
Well, it's very dividing. I think among a lot of people it's The Watchmen. It's arguably one of the most accurate comic book adaptations ever, but at the same time it's so stylized and they do change enough of the climax that it made a lot of comic book fans call foul.
Yeah.
And then it was also marketed as kind of an action movie. So a lot of people went into it expecting an action movie, and instead they got a 3-hour philosophical drama.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I hadn't read Watchmen before I watched the movie, but then, going back and reading the books after I had seen the movie, I was like, oh, this is great. This is great. This is, there were the changes that they made. But for me, it was still, like, you got the message. Like, it was still the same thing. And I guess, for me, I kind of attribute it to something like Sin City, where, like, when you watch that was hyper stylized.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To the point where it literally was. I watched the director's cut of it, and I held the graphic novel in my lap, and I flipped through, and I was like, yep, that's that. Yep. Yep. And there's such strong opinions, just like Watchmen on Sin City. It's like you either love it or you hate it. And it's like, I don't know. It was like, okay, you want it to be exactly like the comic book.
But when it is too much like it, everybody freaks out.
So I just kind of think it's
like, oh, you can't stand to change it just a little bit, and why are you complaining now?
I know I was in the Navy at the time I went and saw Watchmen,
Hmm.
and you know, maybe has a stereotype with gayness, being homosexual, and like being guys that aren't are very like, oh, what the hell's that?
Well,
And
you call everybody semen, and you're gonna have issues.
yeah, exactly. And I went and saw it with a bunch of them, and they tuned out of the movie the second they saw a giant blue penis. They were like, "Oh, I'm done. I'm
not
done.
seeing
I'm
that.
not watching this." And I'm
There's
like,
a
"Really?
penis.
Really? That's what's okay."
You went through boot camp. You saw like a million penises right there. So it's
It's a
different
fake
fluid.
CGI cylinder. I mean, come on.
Yeah, yeah. What did you want? You want a fig leaf? One.
Everybody loves Game of Thrones.
Yeah, exactly.
Get 13-inch prosthetics in that.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on Watchmen?
I liked it. No, I read the comics. The comics were very good. The movie was really good. How it was done. I mean, really don't have any opinion either way. I don't see what the fuss is about it. Why people don't like it or not. And,
But it's not like your top 3 favorite movies of all time.
no, not really. I mean,
Yeah.
it was.
See, Watchmen is my second favorite comic book movie of all time. For a very long time, it was my favorite, and it's just I don't know. I can't comprehend why people don't like it. But the second time I saw it, I went and saw it with a couple of friends. Neither of them had read it. Only one of them was really a comic book fan at all. But they both came out of it like absolutely hating it and completely baffled why I liked it. And I'm just sitting there going like, did you not understand the story? Do you want me to explain it to you? Do you need to see it again? Do you want to borrow the comic? You know what I mean?
You want a running commentary? Do you need a book of literary references or something? What do you need?
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I am one of those people where I just don't understand. I can understand if you don't like the movie, but there's just people that just hate the movie, and I'm like, why? I was like, hey, you can watch the movie just for the intro to the movie.
Right.
One of the best intros.
Oh,
with
yeah.
Bob Dylan song and the wrapping up 50 years in about 5.5 minutes. It was great.
I was in heaven during that intro. That was amazing.
Watch that over and over and over and over again and just be like, oh, it's great. And I actually heard some people complaining about the soundtrack. And I was like, you've taken it to the soundtrack level? That's why you don't like the movie?
Wait, what?
The soundtrack is phenomenal.
I've heard people that be like, there's nothing original. Like, well,
no shit?
No. And so I just give up at that time.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
It's just the weirdness.
Yeah, I think they were just at that point, they were like, oh, there's a blue penis, gotta come up with something that I don't like, so I don't seem like I'm homophobic.
Pretty much.
Sounds good. So, my first movie that I want to talk about is one that, just watching it to this day, hearing the soundtrack to it to this day, like, just instant nostalgia for me. And that's The Rocketeer. When that, like, they put a lot of money into it when they were making it, and it didn't perform the way they wanted it to, so it just became this, oh yeah, and then there's The Rocketeer. I love The Rocketeer. Like, it's like, I grew up in Southern California. Where I grew up looked like where they filmed the movie. I had an old airfield about 2 miles away from my house, and then it's even gotten to a point that, like, there's a ride at Disneyland, the Soaring California, where they fly you over California. In my head, like, if I went there tomorrow, this is exactly what I'd think. I'd be like, oh, I'm the Rocketeer, flying over the orange trees and, going across the farms and next to the beach. It's just, I don't know, like, little, why can't I remember her name right now? Girl who played Betty. Jennifer Labyrinth. Girl from Labyrinth. Of course, now I ranked that on it. But I love this movie, and I do know people out there that don't enjoy it. Like, I don't know, because they're like, it was cheesy, it was campy. I'm like, yeah, but that's the draw of it, to a point. So, I don't know, what are you guys' thoughts on it?
I'll be honest with you. I saw it a couple of times when I was a kid. I think we owned it on VHS, but it never struck me as something that I cared about, and I honestly don't think I've seen it in like 15 years.
Oh, so you need to fix that.
I'm kind of in the same boat with that, Sam. I mean, I like the stylization. I like the whole 50s comic style and stuff like that, but at the same time, I haven't seen it in so long, I'm not even sure I've actually seen it before. So, eh.
See, that
I know I've seen it, and I know that I don't think I hated it, but it's clearly not one that I've always gone back to. You know what I mean?
yeah, see,
I mean,
don't know, it's,
give me the Phantom. I'll go see the Phantom. All the Batman movies. All that crap that came out. Even
Oh.
freaking Best of the Best is a movie. But
it was Jennifer Connelly.
Jennifer Connelly, really?
Jennifer Connelly was the girl in it. And Alan Arkin was in it.
Timothy Dalton.
But yeah, Timothy Dalton was in it. I knew that Timothy Dalton was in it because Timothy Dalton is the shit. But
I don't know. I loved it. Again, I guess I have a bent view on it just due to where I was raised, and it just instant nostalgia. Like, and then after I saw the movie, I had no idea it was a comic, and then I grew up and discovered that it was a comic, and I was like, oh, this is so great, because it's like when I was reading it was during the 48 pack X-Men with the 38-inch necks, and Superman in the mullet era, and the Batman with the extensively long bat horns and the cape that looked like it just kept growing and shrinking at all times. So it was like it felt good to go back and like just it was wholesome. There was the Betty like posing for like scantily clad girly magazines, but it was all like tongue-in-cheek kind of funny stuff, and all the references to old classic Hollywood was great too. So I love some of the old Hollywood movies, but
so now I kind of want to go watch it again.
Yeah. Here, so
don't worry, I'll borrow it to you guys so you can watch it. It's fun. It's just a fun movie that it is campy, but it's The Rocketeer. You're not expecting something like The Watchmen.
Right.
From The Rocketeer.
Of course.
So, all right, Max, you're up for your next one.
okay, so my next one is the second-ish Fantastic Four movie. Not necessarily the one made in the 90s that was meant to suck, but the one made in the 2000s that was supposed to be a blockbuster. Now, as a preface, I am a Fantastic Four comic person, fan, whatever. So, taken with a grain of salt. That being said, I do actually like the first Fantastic Four movie. I mean, granted, yes, the backstory and all that stuff was kind of taking liberties with, but I sort of said, it's a movie. That's kind of what's supposed to happen. So, but as far as anything else goes, I mean, they didn't all of a sudden, change too much of anyone's backstories or nothing, and except for the whole, Doctor Doom being the first villain and not Mole Man. Okay, I can understand that because Mole Man would be a horrible first villain for a first movie. I just totally agree with him on that point. Casting, everyone was pretty good except for Jessica Alba. I had a hard time picturing Jessica Alba as, blonde, first off. So, and Christopher Evans?
Chris Evans.
Chris Evans, sorry.
I just said Captain America.
Captain America. Well, yeah, he played a pretty good douche, which, that's Johnny Storm. Folks seem to hate him for it because, he's playing a douche, and that means he must be a douche, so, we hate you for it. And then, again, he popped up in Captain America and played a good old boy, and like, wow, this guy has acting talent. Now, when you compare him to Captain America and then Fantastic Four, it's like, he's got range. So, that being said, not too bad. I kind of like it actually.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I don't know. I'm kind of in the boat where Fantastic Four was, it came out at that time where it's like they kind of figured out what they were going to do with the superhero movies when you look at like the first two X-Men and then even the first two Spider-Man. It was like, okay, they were good movies. They got a lot of stuff right when it comes to the characters. But then, like this one with I think honestly the standout for those was Michael Chiklis
Oh
is
God,
the king.
yes.
Like for me, it was like he was the only one that I was like,
Believable.
I was like, yeah, he got it. He got the voice.
Yep.
He got the attitude. He got everything right. And then honestly, the guy who played Mr. Fantastic he was okay. I didn't know who he was. I was just like,
Ian Grufford.
yeah. Well, at the time, I was like, okay,
Some
he
random,
looks Mr. Fantastic-ish, so whatever.
Some random Welshman.
But for me, really, the problem,
He was Lancelot in the King Arthur movie.
for me, the biggest problem in that movie, besides Jessica Alba, was Doctor Doom. Like, they made him a business American tycoon dude. It was like, he's not Lex Luthor.
No.
That's like what I got the feeling that they were trying to make him was Lex Luthor, who got like extremely jealous of, Reed and Sue, and was like, oh, I gotta, and they missed the whole aspect of the reason that he does almost all his evil stuff was for his country, to make a power. He is an evil guy and he does evil stuff just to do evil stuff, because that's Doctor Doom.
Right.
But the best part about Doctor Doom is he could break a law in another country and claim, diplomatic immunity, and do whatever he wanted. That's why he got away with everything. And I was like, they didn't even touch on that. So it was like, the second one, I think they improved a little bit, minus the Galactus. But it was really good. No, it was good. It was good. It did its job. It put a Fantastic Four movie out there. So.
Or did none of the parts work on it?
I think it was the HDMI port.
I think the other parts worked, didn't they?
I don't remember.
Okay.
This is where we need some intermission music.
Sorry.
Okay. Well, it's now your turn.
It's my turn. Oh, well, okay.
And or praise Fantastic Four or indifference.
Okay, well, I wasn't very familiar with the comics. Most of my knowledge of Fantastic Four came from the little I remembered from the 90s cartoon, and which wasn't much. I didn't know about like Doctor Doom's backstory. After seeing the movie, I heard a lot of people complaining about it, but I liked the movie when it came out. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a cool, fun movie. I liked the sequel even more, but going back to them years later, about halfway through the first movie, I was just sitting there looking at it like, this is a really bad movie. Like, it's badly, it's badly put together.
Yeah.
It's very poorly written. It had some great actors in it. I agree that Chris Evans and Michael Chiklis did an excellent job in the movie. The guy that did Doctor Doom, I can't remember his name.
Wasn't he in like Nip Tuck? Or am I thinking of something else?
I don't know.
He might have been, but he was all right. I don't know Doctor Doom, but I liked his portrayal of a character I was being introduced to, essentially.
From what you knew of him, yeah.
But ultimately the movie just fell flat for me in a storytelling standpoint. The second movie is kind of off subject, but the second movie kind of felt the same way. It was kind of dropping the ball the whole time. It felt really rushed. They both felt like they were too short for what they were trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, like, I don't know, and especially in retrospect, going back and looking at the movies, it's really hard now to go back and look and be like, well, come on. You know, when Iron Man came out 6 years later, blah, 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 it's hard. But then again, also when you go back and watch X-Men and X2, I don't get that. I don't
Exactly.
get that. There's a little bit just because of the, you know, 14 years ago.
Same with the blades. You know, you look back at the blades and they still hold up. The special effects don't, but
the story does.
the movie does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, you're up, and you can just shift to one side so you can give everyone a preview of what you're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Green Lantern. So, I'll be the first to admit that it did a lot wrong. I can tear the movie apart better than probably anybody else on the planet. But Green Lantern was my favorite character for so long that seeing him on film in a live action, it was amazing. I enjoyed every minute of it, even though analyzing it totally just gets destroyed. But every time I watch it, I enjoy every minute of it.
You had to turn your comic nerd brain off when you were watching it?
The first time I saw it, I was just kind of like in a childlike wonder watching it. I actually went and saw it a second time in theaters, and that was when I first started kind of analyzing the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I still loved the whole thing. I bought it the day it came out with the extended cut that's not really extended, but so I don't know. What do you guys think about it?
I am also a very big Green Lantern fan.
Just a bit.
And when I went and saw it, I thought it was great. There was a lot of CGI to it, but I'm like, how are you not going to tell a Green Lantern story with a boatload of CGI? That's just me. Ryan Reynolds did a great job. He got the banter of Hal Jordan and the, just that smug kind of cocky, but not in a mean way, just kind of in a fighter pilot way.
Big surprise there.
But I think my biggest problem with it, honestly, was it seemed like they made it expecting their sequel. They just automatically assumed that it was going to get a sequel. So they just put out some stuff there to be like, this is how Green Lantern became Green Lantern. Don't worry, the good story's coming next. And we're still here.
Absolutely.
So
That's a huge problem that movie had. Was its set up for Sinestro at the end. They should have done something like Green Lantern First Flight. Yeah, you can totally destroy the movie looking at it, but that's what I'm saying is it's still just a fun movie. You know what I mean? What did you think about it, Max?
Well, my opinion on Green Lantern was I liked it. I mean, granted, I'm not a huge fan. Most of the Green Lantern stuff I know comes from this guy. Comes from Luke, if you're listening. To me, my whole thought process on it sort of seems like it's sort of scared DC and Warner Brothers away from making fun comic book movies. I mean, no fault against the Green Lantern himself, but the fact that we don't have a Wonder Woman movie now might be because they're like, well, look at Green Lantern. That didn't do too well, and they were going for the whole. With Green Lantern, they're going for the whole fun, action-packed, good story, sci-fi adventure, fun movie that all the Marvel movies are doing good at, and just so happened that the Green Lantern failed at it. Now, and now we don't have a Flash movie, we don't have a Wonder Woman movie, we don't have anything else except for dark, broody Superman movies or dark, broody Batman movies, and that's all we're really getting from Warner Brothers and DC now. So that's sort of my opinion on Green Lantern. Good movie, but it just sort of.
I do see what you're talking about, because it did really seem like, DC came, sprinting out of the gate with the success of, Batman, and they're like, oh, yeah, we put out great stuff. There's nothing we could do wrong. And then this came out, and instead of being the small bump that it should have been, it did seem like it was a bigger, like they got cold feet. Warner Brothers was like, oh, well, hold on. Let's think about this. But I guess, looking back, it did give us the avenue for them to do TV.
Right.
When Arrow came with that.
See, that's
So that's the other side of the coin.
Well, yeah, the other side of the coin is, if Green Lantern had made it, Berlanti and Guggenheim would have worked on Green Lantern 2. Maybe Supermax would have been made, so Arrow would have gotten off the ground, because they never would have developed it. The whole reason they developed it was, the studios made our show shit, so why don't we just go do something else?
Yeah. It's not as bad as everyone thought, and I think also because it came out, the same day that Thor came out? It was the same day or the same week or same month at least.
I think they were a week apart, or they might have been like a few days apart, because one of them might have come out on a Wednesday.
Yeah, and it was like, again, in retrospect, how well Thor was made and the missteps. It was like, if that would have came out a certain distance away from another superhero movie, it might have got a little more leeway on it. But, Thor came out, it introduced a character, and it wasn't, amazing. But it was, people were like, okay, I get it. Space Vikings, awesome. Moving on.
I still think a big problem that Green Lantern had was the costume design. The choice to make the costume CG cost so much that they were literally like ripping pages out of the shooting script, going, "We can't do this because it's going to cost too much." So I think if they had actually given him a practical suit, and given Sinestro a practical suit, and just had the CG characters have the CG suits because they have to, it would have saved them money. So they could have done the bigger things that were in the script that got nixed because of the budget constraints.
Yeah.
And I think if some of those scenes, because I've read the original script by Berlanti and Guggenheim, and it's so different than what we actually get. I think if some of those scenes, in particular the battle on Oa, where Hal actually steps into the power battery and goes to town on Legion, because it was Legion in the script, not Parallax, and ends the fight and has the the gray in his hair at the end and everything like that.
Yeah.
I think if they were able to do that sort of stuff, it would have been received better. But there was just so much backtracking while they were filming it because of the budget constraints, because they made a bad choice. So the movie still came out cool, but it didn't quite work. So I do understand why people don't like it.
Yeah, again, I do see why people would hate it. I was like, really? The suit looks like it's made out of uncooked bacon. That's what we're going with? It's the bacon suit to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't know. For me, it's just being a Green Lantern nerd, but Hal Jordan and the white gloves always was kind of like a symbol to me, because none of the other Green Lanterns wore those white gloves, and he was always the one wearing the white gloves, fighting for the, that's just how I remember it. And of course, Tom's going to pull out a picture, and I'm wrong.
They all wear white gloves. White gloves. Everybody has white gloves.
Yeah, but I don't know. Okay, and I guess we'll end this one on a recent topic that me and Tom got into. Well, not into against each other, but teaming up against someone else about this movie being crap, and it is not.
No.
That would be Daredevil. That one right there.
Daredevil.
Daredevil.
Woo!
People.
Funny story. Daredevil. I slept school. I played hooky for people that don't live in Utah. So I left school during lunch with a couple of friends, and we were actually going to get tickets for after school. But then there was a showing playing that started like in 15 minutes, and we were like, screw it, let's just see this.
Yeah, I actually ended up going and seeing. I think it wasn't the midnight premiere, but it was like the midnight of the actual release day. So it was like the next day, midnight, and I ended up seeing a bunch of people that were in school with me, and I was like, hey, you guys are all coming to see Daredevil, and same reason for you. I am a huge Daredevil fan, because I grew up when I was first reading comics, it was Batman and Spider-Man were the ones that were on the grocery store that you can grab on the way out. And then I actually got Daredevil as a birthday gift from someone who was like, oh, he likes comics, and they just grabbed a whole bundle of them, and they were all a bunch of old Daredevils, and I was like, it's like they put Batman and Spider-Man in the same person. This is great.
Took his eyesight away.
This is exactly what I want. And then, I read it, and I just got into it, and I was enthralled with it. It was one of the characters I've never really stopped reading. And then, the movie comes out, and I enjoyed it from start to finish the very first time I watched it, because I was just like, it's Daredevil. I don't care what anyone says. I really, really don't care that the dude from Mallrats is playing, and Good Will Hunting is playing Daredevil. I think he's doing a great job. And then, all the people going back, and there are some parts in that are horrible, and they usually involve Colin Farrell as Bullseye or Jennifer Gardner as Elektra. And then, there are some bad Affleck moments, but the one that I can just think of in my head every time I think of people being mad is when they get in the fight on the school ground, in the playground, and she beats him, and she goes, my name's Electronastios, and then she goes, like it's an anime show. Like, I can't watch the original version now because of that. I'm just like, oh, God, so bad. And then Colin Farrell they cut out a lot of his cursing, because, I say the way to watch Daredevil is never watch the theatrical release. Watch the director's cut, where it's.
I think that's how Fox feels about it at this point, because they didn't release the regular version on Blu-ray. They only released the director's cut.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like because they don't show Matt Murdock, being a lawyer, other than that first scene in the regular one. They don't show any of that aspect of it.
Yeah, they don't even follow up on that whole story in the theatrical version. I think the reason the theatrical version got such a bad rep and why it deserved the bad rep is because it goes, oh, here's this plot line. Never mind.
Yeah, never mind. He's got a suit on. Pay attention.
He's superhero now.
And that's it's an extra 20 minutes for that plot line. I mean, there's an extra 30 minutes in the director's cut, but 20 minutes of it is that plot line. It's that whole thing.
And it ties the plot.
It ties the entire movie together.
Yeah,
it's the whole reason everything is happening is because of that plot line, and that plot line was removed from the original version.
Exactly. And the second I watched it, the first time I watched the director's cut, I was waiting for that scene in the playground, and I was like, they're going to do it. They're going to do it. And then when they cut that stupid sound effect look on her face, anime BS, the second they cut that, I was like, I could breathe. I was like, oh, okay. It's going to be good. It's going to be good.
It's going to be all right.
And
it's going to be
also
all right.
another thing is, they did a very good job with the Daredevil costume, I think. Fox likes to keep stuff grounded in reality and make it look like it was made out
reality,
of
leather.
Yeah. But it was I got that, and then they go to what Colin Farrell had. I'm gonna wear a tank top and a leather jacket with studs on it. Yeah, I'm a bad guy. It's like, why not? His would have been easy to transfer over to leather because that's what apparently Fox likes to do. So let's put him in leather. I like it. So, I don't know. What do you think?
Honestly, if no one on the internet told me that Daredevil sucked, I would have liked if Daredevil. Daredevil seemed like a pretty good action movie, theatrical version or not. I mean, yeah, that whole fight scene with the anime thing that Luke was talking about, yeah, that was pretty lame. But really, I don't see what the hate is all about when folks talk about how horrible the Daredevil movie is. I'm just sort of.
It's really had a resurgence lately, the whole hate on Daredevil ever since
Yeah.
Affleck was cast as Batman. People are going, oh, he's going to ruin Batman like he ruined Daredevil. He didn't ruin Daredevil.
No,
He
not at all.
did just fine. The studio ruined Daredevil.
Right. So, honestly, it's like I see the extended cut, the director's cut of Daredevil, and I'm like, what are people complaining about in this movie?
Because people didn't see that movie,
No.
which is what they should have seen.
Right, gotcha.
And that is a big thing. Is I think a lot of people, there's still a vocal hatred for that movie because of the whole Batman thing. And I'm still convinced that most people haven't seen the director's cut that are complaining. Because, yeah, I can understand the complaint based on the theatrical version, because you're misremembering the movie. All you're remembering is that it's bad.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same thing with people blaming Ryan Reynolds for Green Lantern. It's because he's the star. It's not that he's the problem, but he's the face of the movie.
Yeah, he gets all the blame.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. And I'm hoping that with the upcoming Daredevil stuff that the character will be viewed in a better light, that it's going to start to be interconnected. If they do it right, especially if they do, because Daredevil does have a lot of dark, broody, Batman-esque stories to him, but lately, I think since 2011, since Mark Waid has taken over writing Daredevil, there's 40 issues of good, solid material that you can wrap up like where he came from in like an episode of the Netflix series, or episode or two, and then just move on. And the way that he's being written now is it's more like a swashbuckly kind of adventure story with the aspects of him being broody and stuff, but it's fun. You read it and you enjoy it. And there's still times where you're like, oh, what? That's messed up.
Keeping the chest down.
But it's like, also there's times where you're laughing when you're reading it. And if they can replicate what Mark Waid has done on the pages of Daredevil onto the TV show, then it's going to be fantastic. I have no doubt. But if they try Frank Miller it, and they try to go too dark with it, I don't think it's going to fit with what everything else they put out is. And I think that's going to off-put people that went and saw Thor, that went and saw Iron Man, and saw all this, oh, blast the bad guys, smash with a hammer type stuff, and then all of a sudden you have some guy sitting on a ledge outside his room in the rain crying because some guy just drove his wife crazy.
Yeah, I think
Insane asylum.
I think the key to Daredevil, the series, this is way off topic, but I think the key to the series working is ignoring Elektra. Because, yeah, there's a lot of good with Elektra in the comics, but I think we proved with the Elektra movie and some of the heavier-handed Elektra elements from the Daredevil movie, that Elektra isn't going to be received well. Whether she's a good character isn't the issue. It's that she's not going to be received well, so we kind of need to avoid it.
See, I think maybe if they catch her further down the line.
Yeah, like season 2 or 3, go ahead and bring her in.
Yeah.
But you need to establish Daredevil without her.
Exactly. And listen, if I don't get Stiltman, I'll be okay with it, because Stiltman is a horrible villain, but he's classic Daredevil. His job is, I've got extendy legs. That's my villainous power. But there's so many bad guys. They could do Bullseye correctly. They could do Mr. Fear, which is
And what would be interesting with Bullseye is if they do Bullseye right, and you eventually bring them into the movies, because the MCU is all one big
Yeah.
thing. You get the Hawkeye Bullseye thing, and that's
exactly.
the better story in my opinion.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic, and then you can bring in Black Widow, Daredevil,
Yeah, there you go.
the whole thing. So, all right, well that's all we had on our list to talk about this time. We are planning on being a little more regular with the podcast, as Tom has a cat, I called him.
I mean, Reason Grant.
So, yeah, so expect a little more activity. We're going to try and get our website up so we can post these on the website, as well as starting our own YouTube page where you can come if you do want to see our ugly mugs. You can come there and check it out there. But
Kitty.
so that's about it. I'm Luke, and if for some reason people want to send me a message, you can find me on Twitter. It's at LukeMan8610.
And I'm Max, and I am on the internet. And I can't remember what I have, so
We'll put it in the notes
Yes.
if you can remember.
yes.
And I'm Tom, and I have a Twitter. It's at Luke Reed. Don't ask. It'll say Tom.
All right, guys. Well, this has been Who Dropped the Toast with our new co-star, the cat.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. Catch you guys later.